Welcome to DEGENTALK. Today we're talking Major League Baseball with Tony and BTC Vix. How's it going, guys?
Great
Hey
guys, how
Theo,
you doing?
doing well.
Excellent, excellent. And baseball season has started, so we have another sport to bet on to consider in our betting every week. And I'm glad to have Tony on that knows something about baseball because I don't know that much.
Yeah, it's another sport that we can go full degen on. Uh, but just to get right into it, Tony, we've talked to you a lot about NBA, so now we're coming to a new sport. So why don't you
Mhm.
take us through the process you go through of, from start to finish on how you end up placing your bets in MLB and how that kind of differs from the other sports.
Baseball is more of an individual sport in terms of, obviously, basketball, you have to have three great key players in order to be able to function on a nightly basis. But in baseball, you start off first, you're looking and seeing the pitching matchups. Pitching matchups in baseball is, to me, where you start. If you have a pitcher who's used to giving up, say he's got a 4.22 ERA, and he's going against a guy who's got a 3 ERA, or even less than that. Like Zach Greinke last year had a 1.66 ERA for the entire season. He was 19-3. Um, then you have to factor in what's around them. Defense. How good is the defense? Is it a very bad defense, or is it a middle-of-the-road defense? There's also the bullpens. I think the bullpen's the most underrated thing people look at when scouting a game. My Yankees this year, they're going to have one of the best bullpens in the league. But to go along with that, they got question marks. CC Sabathia, he had a disastrous season. Nova got hurt. Tanaka, he's one bad pitch away from losing his arm and a full season. So bullpens are very key as well. Um, I like to look about a month into the season. You can really start to see some streaks, hitting wise. So pitching is first and foremost. If you don't have the pitching, you're not going anywhere. Look at Kansas City last year. They had great pitching and timely hitting. Same thing has gone on for years with the San Francisco Giants. They seem to win every other year because they got the pitching. If you don't have the pitching, you're going to end up like the Milwaukee Brewers. So that's a great summary right there.
All right, so now break it down into like when you're actually looking at the spreads and you're looking at some of the matchups. What
Mhm.
kind of bets do you like to make? Um, are you looking at more totals? Are you looking at just the matchups? Kind of just give us some perspective on that.
Well, there's a thing out that I didn't really mess with last year, which I like. It's called the first 5 innings. It's a very interesting idea. If you have a very lopsided matchup, pitching wise, and the lineups just don't match up evenly, it's very interesting to look at because for the first 5 innings, you're only giving half a run in each game instead of the full game where you're giving a run and a half. And believe me, that half a run is key. When you're betting the full game, there's a lot of teams that just win it, pull it out by 1 run, and you miss it by half a run. So I like this first 5 innings pick. What I'll also do some nights, depending, is I'll just take 5 teams that I know are going to most likely win, and I'll parlay them. That cuts down the juice. That's a very productive idea as well. Instead of having to go each individual game, laying a run and a half in each one, unfortunately, law of averages says if you're doing 5 games or 4 games, sooner or later you're going to go on a bad streak. So I like to try and cut down the whole idea of giving a run and a half per game. Um, the first 5, it's something I really didn't mess with last year, but I started looking at it more closer this year. I'm going to start doing that a lot more often.
So that would be more of the key pitcher matchups right off the bat. Like there's a less likelihood they're going to go into dip into their bullpen in those first five, right? Is that kind of the thought process around it?
Exactly. I mean, if you're looking at it from that perspective, what you're doing is you're basing it off of how good is the starting pitcher going to be for the first five. Most of these guys don't even make it out of the sixth or the seventh inning anymore, so that's when the bullpens really start to factor in. But this first five is really, I seen a YouTube clip on it. There was a guy who's been a gambler for 30-something years, and he was hooked up with a Chinese guy, and he only bet the first 5 innings. And I never really thought to give it much look, but I do like this idea. This is the juices are pretty much the same. I mean, if you have a very favorable team, like tonight, I like the White Sox. I mean, they are going against Sonny Gray, but I don't know. They got Todd Frazier now at third base. They got a more well-rounded lineup. They're gonna hang in there. The White Sox are gonna hang in there on a lot of nights. Like tonight is the Los Angeles Dodgers plus 105 minus half a run for the first five for the going against the San Diego Chargers. Got football in my mind. San Diego Padres. That's going to be one of my picks tonight.
Got it. And so you did mention, I do want to get into props momentarily, but so you actually like to do parlays almost on every day that you're betting here in baseball?
If I'm betting 5 days out of the week, I'll probably do it 2 or 3 times a week. It all depends on the matchups. It all depends on who's on a hot streak, who's on a cold streak. You can parlay these first 5 innings as well. You can do that. I don't know if you can tease them. I don't think so. Let me take a look here. I'll try it right now.
I don't think that's pretty normal. At least I think that's not just basketball.
Yeah, you can't tease.
NFL and basketball is for teasing.
Yeah, you can't tease them.
But you could actually essentially tease it what you would do is put it in a parlay and then just buy yourself some points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you could do something like that.
Yeah, if you're gonna, because you got to look at these juices that you're laying. Like tonight, the Washington Nationals are laying 195 for the first 5 innings. That's heavy juice. Let me see what they got for the full game. 195 for the game, 189 for the entire game. So that games like that where, let's be honest, the Atlanta Braves is still 3 years away from being a viable team again. Dusty Baker in Washington is key to this team. They had bad management last year. They didn't get along. There was no chemistry. They have to come out stronger this season. That's a team going against the San Diego Padres that I'll be parlaying this evening.
All right, and yeah, that's interesting. So you do some teasers on full games then?
No, I haven't done teasers, but I will do parlays. I'll do say 5 teams, cut down that juice, and then go from there.
Yeah, I definitely found that mostly I try and stick, if I'm going to do any teasers, it's mostly football related. Haven't had real good luck on basketball.
Basketball is a whole different world. It's not it's a grind. It's a real grind. That's for sure.
All right, so let's talk a little bit. Do you do any prop betting as far as MLB goes at all?
I did. I did do a few. I did a few over-unders this year. I liked the under 74 on the San Diego Padres. That was one of them. I went over on the Toronto Blue Jays, 87. Let me see. Yeah, I didn't touch my Yankees at 85. I wasn't sure about that one. They have so many injury concerns going into the season. Let me see. I went over on the Mets, over 88. Let's see. I went over on the Miami Marlins. I think they'll get 81 or 82 wins this year. It was at 80. That was it. That was it on the prop bets. Probably, what, 5 or 6 I did? I didn't go too crazy. Actually, yes, there was another one. The Chicago Cubs. I went over 89. I like that team. That's gonna be a fun team to watch this year. They got themselves Ben Zobrist. Castro's out of there. He didn't seem to enjoy being in Chicago in the first place. They got John Lackey this year. Really stabilizes that rotation as a number 3 behind Lester and Arrieta. That's going to be a fun team to watch this year.
All right, Theo, do you have anything?
Yeah, definitely. So I was wondering, in your opinion, this year, what are one or two teams that are maybe overhyped or fan favorites that are just simply overrated, in your opinion, if you can see that thus far?
I think Pittsburgh Pirates are going to be a good team. They're going to be in the playoffs, but I'm not loving this starting pitching. They got John Neese for Neil Walker from the Mets. So Neese goes over to Pittsburgh. He pitched to a 4.13 ERA last year. He's a lefty. He's all right. He's a decent, but he's penciled in as their number 3. Cole is their number 1. You got to love him. But after that, Lariano, you don't know from game to game what he's going to be. I mean, he's not a solid number 2. If you could pencil him in as your 4, then you're really rocking and rolling. But you look at that division. They're going against the Cubs, the Cardinals. Those are not going to be pushover teams. Those teams are definitely going to be viable. Another team that's going to have some issues is the Baltimore Orioles. I don't know. I look at the starting pitching rotation, and they're going to have issues this year. The over-under on them is on 80. You already see that Tampa's hitting early in the season, which is a little surprising. Blue Jays are going to have issues starting pitching-wise. They're relying on R.A. Dickey to be a number 2 this season. The guy's got an ERA at almost 4 last year. That's not number 2 quality.
And that's their number 2 pitcher.
Yeah, that's not their number 2. They also brought back J.A. Happ, who pitched to about a 3.61 ERA last season. When he was in Toronto, he pitched better than that. But they need letting Price go. He got astronomical paycheck. But they're going to have to go out mid-season and get themselves a number 2 behind Stroman, because Stroman's the real deal. He's going to be the ace, but he's just coming back off that injury. He's gonna need a season before he's really considered, a veteran. But that guy's really got it. If they could turn him into the number 2 guy in mid-season and get themselves a veteran ace, then I'll look at them seriously for a championship. But until then, they've got too many issues in the bullpen as well.
Is Dickey? He's the guy that throws the knuckleball, right?
Yep, that's the knuckler. Yep, he went over for that trade from the Mets. Yeah.
Okay, definitely. Well, since we're talking about pitching a lot, then is there a pitcher that you would consider a do not bet? So, for example, in MMA, I do have a few on my list where I was just like, okay, this might be fun to watch, but it's just like a do not bet person because they're really unpredictable. They kind of don't do what they're supposed to, or what their coaches say. They're kind of their own animal. Are there any pitchers or even lineups maybe that you would say they're a do not bet?
I'm going to hold off on Jeff Samardzija. He signed with the San Francisco Giants. I watched him last year. I got to be honest. I don't know how in the world he got that money. He was unreliable. He had one good start against a team last year. It was like the second to last start of the year, and there was nobody in there who was experienced. He was going against a AAA lineup. I don't like betting any of his games. I'm going to give him at least 3 starts to figure out where he's going to be at. Ian Kennedy's going to be another one. Wildly inconsistent. You got to figure
Hmm.
out where his head is at for the season. And Clay Buchholz for the Mets, for the Boston Red Sox. Um, he pitched much better last season after 2 years ago just getting tattooed. I want to see what Rick Porcello, also for the Boston Red Sox, I want to see what he does for the first 3 starts, to see where his year is going to be headed as well. Lineup-wise, I'm going to be going against the Oakland A's.
Okay.
Uh, I like their pitching, but if you don't have a lineup, then you're going nowhere. I mean,
Right. So would you say A's is maybe I mean, the season hasn't been going on
mhm,
very long, but are
mhm.
projected possibly one of the worst rotations, or maybe the worst?
No, rotation-wise, the Oakland A's are going to be. I mean, they got Sonny Gray, they got Jesse Ham.
Okay.
They're pretty good. Rotation-wise, I would look at the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
They got a lot of young guys in that rotation. It's going to take a year or two to really figure it out. I don't like the Milwaukee Brewers rotation either. Um, Matt Garza just went down for 4 to 6 weeks with back issues again. That's been an ongoing issue for the last 3 years for him.
Hmm.
And he's their veteran, so it's going to be all young guys for a while. So that's going to be a team I key in on.
Okay. And one last question is, or kind of like a pick in a way. What do you think is the bottom of the bucket surprise team? You know, that everyone, like you said, okay, Milwaukee you don't like,
Hmm.
but I think probably a lot of other people also probably don't like them. So
Hmm.
there's a kind of consensus on that. Well, what's a team that there's also seems to be a consensus about, that maybe in the media or even with bettors, that this is a really shitty team. Uh, but it's not really as shitty as people think, and they have the potential to surprise people and maybe cover with those half runs on some of the spreads.
I like the Colorado Rockies. I like this lineup. Pitching wise, they're out in Coors Field. They're going to have issues all year trying to find reliable pitching, but this lineup can hit. Blackman, who's a center fielder, had 17 last year in a breakout season. The shortstop, Trevor Storer, who's already hit a bunch of home runs, he hit 20 last year in the minors. He looks to be the real deal. Carlos Gonzalez, if he can stay healthy, this team can play. He hit 40 home runs last year, and then Arenado, he hit 42 last year, and he came out of nowhere. Nobody projected him to be a third
Hmm.
baseman hitting 42 home runs. He tied Bryce Harper for the lead for the entire National League. So that's going
Okay.
to be, I like that over 68.5 on the wins. If Gonzalez can stay healthy. He's a key cog right there, right, for Colorado.
Okay, definitely. All right, Vix, you wanted to go over some picks?
Yeah, so Tony, I just want to kind of do a little speed round with you today. So,
Mm.
uh, what you're looking at tonight, what are your picks?
Tonight, I like the, let's see, first 5 innings, I'm going to take the Dodgers, and I'm going to parlay it with the Washington Nationals. I'm going to take the 7 o'clock start on Washington, 9 o'clock start on the Dodgers. I'm going to parlay that the first 5 innings. Um, I'm going to do, yeah, I'm going to lay the half a run as well. I'm going to do that. First 5 innings, I'm going to take the Houston Astros against my Yankees, actually. Um, I'm going to do that on a money line, though, because that's plus 110. If you take the half a run, you're at minus 130. That's a big difference between the two. So I'll take the the money line, plus 110. Not too much to like tonight because I like to watch these starters. Now you're getting into the second or third starters in these rotations that are not exactly the most reliable yet. You got to see where these guys are at. Um, So I'm gonna do a lot of watching tonight, but I'm gonna roll with the Washington Nationals and Dodgers, two teams that are pretty reliable. I'll be watching that Chicago White Sox game to see what this White Sox lineup can do. I want to see. I got to see something from this Yankee team. Castro yesterday had that 2-run double. Other than that, they were a little bit asleep. It was cold out. I get that, but they're going to need their big bats to show up this season if they're going to have any chance of getting to the playoffs. Minnesota. I don't know what to make of the Minnesota Twins. That's another team I'm going to have to watch for a while before I even think of going against them. Because they got some young talent, but pitching-wise, pitching is very important for them. Phil Hughes is their ace. Santana, that's not good. Duffy is all right. He was 5-1 last year. Tommy Melanton, I think I pronounced that name wrong. I know I pronounced that name wrong, but he's a lefty in a big ballpark. I don't know. I can't believe Minnesota invested $162 million into Santana. That's a lot of money for a 4 ERA guy. Only 7-5 last year. I'm not big on that signing, but they got to make moves. So there's a lot of question marks going into this season. Texas Rangers are going to be another team I got to watch and see what happens.
Alrighty.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for coming on today, Tone. If we want to get in touch with you, how can we find you?
Just follow me on Twitter. I'm on all the time. It's picking MLB. Oh, hold on. I don't even know what my Twitter handle is anymore.
Okay.
I forget. Hold on one second.
Uh-huh.
It's picking NBA AN MLB. So that's my Twitter handle. That's the best place to find me.
Okay, great. And if you're listening, you can check that out in the description, a link to his Twitter and my Twitter and Vix's Twitter. You can also check us out in the Telegram group. That is telegram.org/sportsbet. Thanks a lot for watching, and talk to you next time.